song and dance or do?
Cartwheel something, do something, quick.
A song and... You must be joking.
No, I'm not.
Most people remember Davy Jones as the British heartthrob who made millions of teenagers scream in the 1960s. But the real story of his life reveals someone far more interesting than the carefully crafted TV image suggested. A man who repeatedly walked away from fame to pursue what he actually loved. Jones didn't start out dreaming of spotlights and screaming fans. After losing his mother to emphysema at just 14, he found comfort in an unexpected place: horses. While his friends studied for exams, Jones dropped out of school entirely to train as a jockey at Newmarket, one of England's most prestigious racing stables. He was serious about it too, working under trainer Basil Foster and envisioning a future on the racing circuit rather than the stage. That dream didn't last long, but not because Jones gave up on it. His trainer had connections in show business and saw something in the young man that went beyond horsemanship. One phone call later, Jones was auditioning for a theater production. Born on December 30th, 1945, in Openshaw, Manchester, Jones grew up in a working-class household with 3 sisters. His childhood was typical for post-war England until tragedy struck with his mother's death. The loss fundamentally shaped who he would become, driving him toward the stability and unconditional affection he found in horses. Animals don't judge, don't make demands beyond basic care, and don't abandon you. For a grieving teenage boy, that made all the difference. His brief stint on the British soap opera Coronation Street gave him his first taste of recognition. Playing the grandson of Ina Sharples, one of the show's central characters, Jones appeared in just 1 episode, but made enough of an impression to suggest a future in entertainment. Yet, the pull of the stables proved stronger, at least temporarily. There was something pure about the relationship between jockey and horse, something that made sense in a way the entertainment industry never quite would. Landing the role of the artful Dodger in Oliver changed everything. The production traveled from London's West End to Broadway, and audiences couldn't get enough of the charming young performer. Jones earned a Tony nomination, which was remarkable for someone his age. But the truly pivotal moment came on February 9th, 1964, when he appeared on The Ed Sullivan Show. The same night, the Beatles made their legendary American debut. Standing backstage, watching thousands of young women lose their minds over 4 guys from Liverpool, Jones had a realization. He wanted that kind of attention for himself. The energy in that theater was electric, almost dangerous. Jones watched as the Beatles transformed ordinary teenage girls into a screaming, crying, massive pure emotion. It was raw power, the kind that transcends music and becomes something closer to mass hysteria. He recognized immediately that this was something different from traditional stardom. This was a phenomenon, and he wanted to be part of it. The Beatles hadn't just performed that night. They demonstrated that music could create a kind of cultural earthquake. Jones decided right then that he needed a band. Before the Monkees came together, Jones had dipped his toes into solo work. His single What Are We Going to Do reached number 93 on the Billboard Hot 100, a respectable showing for a 19-year-old newcomer. It proved he had commercial potential, even if it didn't set the world on fire. The song gave him credibility and kept him visible in the industry while bigger opportunities developed behind the scenes. That ambition led him to the Monkees, the made-for-TV band that became a real musical phenomenon. But here's where things get complicated. The show's producers had originally wanted to cast an existing band, specifically the Loving Spoonful, a Manhattan-based group that hadn't quite broken through yet. When that plan collapsed, they shifted to auditions and focused their attention on Jones. The producers, Bob Rafelson and Bert Schneider, had been inspired by the Beatles film A Hard Day's Night and wanted to capture that same combination of music, comedy, and youthful energy for television. Jones had to prove himself even though he was already under contract with the studio. Once he got the part, tensions immediately surfaced. The band's songwriter wanted Jones as the lead singer, but his bandmates weren't happy about it. Peter Tork later said Jones was actually a better drummer than vocalist, but the producers worried that his short stature would make him invisible behind a drum kit. So they kept him front and center, even though it created friction within the group. The decision to fire songwriter Snuff Garrett was meant to ease tensions, but it set a precedence. From the beginning, the Monkees would be caught between being a manufactured product and a legitimate band, and that tension never fully resolved. Musicians wanted artistic control, but the producers had invested too much money to let 4 young guys make all the decisions. It was a recipe for conflict that would simmer throughout the band's existence. The first pilot episode bombed completely. The ratings were terrible, and it looked like Jones's big break might evaporate before it really began. The studio took a gamble and released an edited version featuring Jones's original screen test. And this time, the response was overwhelming. The show became an instant hit. Yet, despite starring on one of the most popular programs on television, Jones and his bandmates earned just $450 per episode, initially bumped up to $750. More frustratingly, they received nothing from the massive merchandise sales. No cut from the lunchboxes, posters, or any other Monkees products flying off shelves. When Jones and Mickey Dolenz finally sued Columbia Pictures in the late 1970s, they each received a settlement of only $10,000. The financial exploitation was stunning when you consider the scope of Monkey Mania. The band had become a merchandising juggernaut, with their faces and logo appearing on everything from bubblegum cards to beach towels. Parents across America were spending money on Monkees products, and the four young men whose images made it all possible saw virtually none of those profits. It was a harsh lesson in how the entertainment industry operated, particularly in an era when young performers had little leverage and even less legal protection. In 1967, during the height of Monkey Mania, Jones disappeared for several weeks. Fans panicked, creating wild theories about what might have happened to their idol. The truth involved a draft notice and Jones's determination to avoid military service. According to one account, he fasted for 3 weeks to fail the physical examination. Another version suggests he avoided the draft by proving he was the sole financial provider for his family, a family that most fans didn't know existed. The disappearance created genuine concern among fans who'd grown attached to the cheerful performer they saw on television each week. Some worried he'd been in an accident. Others speculated about illness or personal crisis. The silence from the studio only fueled more speculation. Meanwhile, the producers scrambled to complete the second season in record time, convinced that Jones would soon be shipped overseas. They worked at a frantic pace, rushing through production schedules to bank as many episodes as possible before their star potentially vanished into military service. All that panic turned out to be unnecessary, but it demonstrated just how dependent the entire enterprise was on Jones's presence. Jones had secretly married Dixie Linda Haynes in December 1967. He kept the marriage hidden until their daughter, Talia, was born in October 1968, and when the news finally broke, many fans felt betrayed. Part of Jones' appeal as a teen idol rested on the fantasy that he was available, and marriage shattered that illusion. He defended the decision by saying he believed stars deserved private lives, but the backlash was real and likely contributed to their divorce in 1975. The concept of privacy for public figures was different then. Today, celebrities expect every detail of their lives to be dissected on social media. But in the 1960s, there was still an expectation that performers could maintain some separation between their public personas and private realities. Jones tried to walk that line, but the teen idol machine didn't allow for much nuance. Fans had invested emotionally in a version of Davy Jones that existed primarily on television screens, and discovering he'd built a secret family life felt like a betrayal of that parasocial relationship. His cultural impact extended beyond his own fame. When another performer named David Jones wanted to break into music, he had to change his name because Davy Jones was already too well known. That's how David Bowie got his stage name. Star Trek producers reportedly cast Walter Koenig as Chekhov specifically to mimic Jones's shaggy haircut and attract younger viewers to their show. The ripple effects of Monkey Mania touched unexpected corners of popular culture, influencing casting decisions and branding strategies across the entertainment landscape. Behind the scenes, creative tensions were building. When the Monkees made the psychedelic film Head, with Jack Nicholson as co-writer, the band discovered they'd received no creative credit or control. Jones, Dolenz, and Nesmith staged a one-day walkout in protest, leaving Peter Tork alone on set. They eventually returned after negotiating a larger profit share. But the damage was done, their relationship with the producers never recovered, and by 1970, the band had split up. Head was a bizarre, ambitious project that deliberately subverted everything the Monkees represented. It was self-aware and satirical, acknowledging the manufactured nature of the band while trying to transcend it. The film confused audiences and didn't perform well commercially, but it represented the members' attempt to be taken seriously as artists rather than just products. The walkout was about respect as much as money. They wanted recognition for their contributions to a project that wouldn't exist without them. Jones later described feeling manipulated by the industry, particularly regarding the final Monkees album changes that he and Dolzent recorded after the others had left. In the liner notes of the 1994 re-release, Jones didn't hold back his feelings. He said they'd essentially been tricked into recording what was really an Andy Kim album that just happened to have the Monkees' name slapped on it. It was bubblegum pop that neither he nor Dolzent had much creative input on, and Jones distanced himself as much as possible. His solo career struggled to gain traction. Signing with Bell Records in 1971 seemed promising, but the contract gave him no control over song selection or production. The albums that resulted felt generic, and even devoted fans had trouble connecting with them. One track, Rainy Jane, managed to reach number 52 on the Billboard charts, but it was a far cry from the Monkees' success. Music historian Glenn A. Baker later noted how puzzling it was that someone as talented and confident as Jones floundered so badly when left to make his own decisions. Perhaps the issue wasn't Jones's decision-making, but rather the fact that his heart was never fully in it. He'd stumbled into music stardom somewhat accidentally, driven more by the desire for the attention he'd witnessed at that Beatles performance than by a deep passion for music itself. When the machinery of fame stopped supporting him, when he had to generate momentum entirely on his own, the lack of genuine drive became apparent. Throughout everything, Jones never stopped thinking about horses. He maintained an amateur jockey's license and raced professionally whenever possible. In 1996, he won his first race riding a horse we dig past, a personal triumph that likely meant more to him than many of his entertainment achievements. When MTV aired a Monkees marathon in 1986, introducing the band to a new generation, Jones participated in the reunion tour, but seemed reluctant to fully commit. He didn't appear on their comeback single, That Was Then, This Is Now, though he did join them for the album Pool. When that record underperformed, Jones went back to what genuinely mattered to him, the horses and the racing world he'd loved since childhood. The reunion tours revealed something important about Jones's relationship with his own fame. He was willing to participate, willing to give fans what they wanted, but there was always a part of him that remained detached. He'd show up, perform the hits, smile for the cameras, then return to his horses. The Monkees had given him financial security and a place in pop culture history, but they'd never captured his soul the way horses did. His personal life remained complicated. His second marriage to Anita Pollinger produced 2 daughters and lasted 15 years before ending during the Monkees' 30th anniversary tour. He married Jessica Pacheco in 2009, but she filed for divorce just 2 years later, then withdrew the petition a month after that. The on-again, off-again nature of the relationship suggested underlying issues that never quite resolved. When Jones wrote his final will, he wasn't yet married to Pacheco and didn't include her. After his death, his eldest daughter successfully petitioned to seal the will, possibly to protect his estate from disputes. The complications around his final will reflected the messy reality of Jones's personal life. Multiple marriages, children from different relationships, and a final marriage that seemed unstable created a situation ripe for conflict. His daughter's decision to seal the will suggests she anticipated problems, possibly from Pacheco or others who might challenge the estate's distribution. On February 29, 2012, Jones spent the morning doing exactly what he loved, caring for his 14 horses and riding his favorite one around the track. He chatted with ranch hands, completely at ease. Shortly after 8 a.m., he was found unconscious in his car, having suffered a heart attack. Paramedics couldn't save him. He died at a hospital in Stuart, Florida, at age 66. The surviving Monkees didn't attend his private funeral, choosing to respect his family's privacy instead. They organized a public memorial service in New York, performing near the Broadway stages where Jones had once captivated audiences as the Artful Dodger. Fans, friends, and colleagues filled the venue to honor someone who'd brought them genuine joy. Davy Jones lived a life of contradictions, a reluctant star who craved attention, a performer who'd rather be with horses, a teen idol who valued privacy above image. He achieved remarkable fame, but never seemed entirely comfortable with it, always pulling back towards something more authentic. That tension defined his story, making him more human and relatable than the perfect image the Monkees had sold to millions. In the end, he died doing what he'd always wanted to do, surrounded by the animals that had given him solace since he was 14 years old and grieving his mother. That might be the most honest ending his complicated life could have had.